Vasudeva. Hari Om. Gurur Om Sem No Mitra Sem Varunah Sem No Bhavatvaryama Sem Na Indro Bruhaspatihi Sem No Vishnurukramah Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi Tvameva pratyaksham brahma vadishyami Ratam vadishyami Satyam vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Pratya Paschatya Deshanam Samanvaya Vidhayakam Shantam Saumya Gunopetam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to all our brothers and sisters. I hope most of you have enjoyed yesterday's class on homeopathic treatment for COVID. We will try to have some more such classes in the study of homeopathy. We will let you know. And now let us continue our class on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So in this 19th aphorism, which we have almost completed with so many examples. So in this, what he meant to convey to us is that we have to observe our behavior and we have to eliminate this bhava pratyaya, which is explained in this aphorism. Bhava pratyaya means the basis for our birth and rebirth. So here we must be very clear about the birth and rebirth and immortality, because these are the frequently used terms, but these are also technical terms in this science. So we have to know perfectly the significance of these words, and we have to remember this significance so that we may not have any scope to misunderstand, wrongly understand what is given by Patanjali. Generally, we understand by the term birth and death only to the physical level. So taking a physical form we call birth, leaving this physical body we call death, and again taking another physical body we call the rebirth or reincarnation. Then what is immortality? Also it is not properly understood. Immortality, how it is generally understood is that not having death. Okay, that is true. Immortality means not having death, not attaining death. That is immortality. But in what sense? If you take only on the physical sense or about the physical material sense, then it is not possible. Because this physical body is made up of the matter state from various ingredients from nature by the plan worked out by the forces of nature. So this physical body is built every time. It is built according to the physical laws. Of course, ultimately on the cosmic law is ultimate. But subsequently, we have the properties which are called dharmas. The properties of different states of matter. So the physical body, which is the grossest form of our existence, is built up by using so many elements. This we know. The embryology and all these things we know. But we are quite sure that after a span of life, certain span of life, this physical body goes into disintegration. It is dropped off, which we call death, and then goes into disintegration. It is a sort of redistribution. Whatever is taken from the elements is given back to the elements. So this is a eternal process which cannot be stopped or cannot be reversed, never be stopped. That is quite sure. So then what is the meaning of the word immortality? Is it something like having this physical body protected by certain means to stay in the same manner without any sort of disintegration or discarding this body? So is it possible? Immortality. But there are many teachings, what we see, that we have to attain immortality. All the beings, higher beings, all the masters and rishis, when we read the scriptures, we find that they are all immortal. They are always living. When you see the rishis like Vasishtha or Vishwamitra or Bharadwaja, or you find them, they are mentioned in different times. For example, Vasishtha and Vishwamitra and Bharadwaja, they are mentioned in Ramayana at the time of Rama. And then they are also mentioned in Bhagavata and Mahabharata at the time of Krishna. How much gap is there between Rama, incarnation of Rama and incarnation of Krishna? That is in Treta Yuga. And it is the end of Dwapara Yuga. You see, 864 thousands of years. 864 thousands of years. So, when we read this, then it appears that everything is confusing, but there is no confusion. It is very clear. The confusion is in our mind because we could not understand the terms, exact significance of the terms. So let us once again, because these are the terms, once in a while, once again we have to refresh them in our understanding, in our memory. So immortality doesn't mean that the mortal physical body will remain the same forever. That is not possible. If you think that is the significance of the word of immortality, but that is never possible. Because it depends upon the law of nature and the law of all the dharmas, or the laws of all the elements. It is always changing. So you cannot expect that any physical form which came into existence, we can say that it is built. It cannot exist forever. So that is not immortality. So then, what do you mean by mortality and what do you mean by immortality? We have studied, we have taken one example given by our master. All of you definitely remember, I think, that example. Dissolving some lumps of sugar in different glasses of water and again evaporating the water and getting the residue of the sugar in the glasses, different. And can say confirmly that it is the same sugar which you have dissolved in that glass which you got back again. But if you dissolve the sugar in different glasses and you mix all the solution into one vessel, and from this one vessel again put back some quantity of this water with dissolved sugar into different glasses and then start condensing and start evaporating the water and find the residue sugar there. Now you cannot have any identity. You cannot say that it is the same sugar which you have dissolved in the glass, because all these solutions are mixed together. So they lost when they are mixed totally. No more individual existence is there. So they have lost their identity. They got completely dissolved. So once again, when it is put into different glasses and when the water is evaporated, you got the residue of sugar. You cannot say that it is the same sugar which was there in the glass before. You cannot. So with this example, we can understand that when we leave the body, physical body, we leave only the physical form, but we exist still in different layers, because already we are very familiar that our existence is just not merely this physical structure. So we have the physical body, we have the vital body or astral body, and we have the mental body, and then we have the intelligence, we have the buddhi, and discrimination. So we are in different layers, different levels of consciousness. So these different layers are called different bodies in which we are existing. So when we leave the physical body, we can live still in the other level of consciousness. And in this aphorism, what was explained as bhava pratyaya, basis for reincarnation, in this 19th aphorism, bhava pratyaya, basis for reincarnation, rebirth. So those yoga practitioners, who are trying to practice vairagya, non-attachment, in this there are two categories of people which were explained very clearly with very much wide explanation. Videhas, those who have left their bodies, and Prakritilayas, who are dissolved themselves into the nature, their own nature. Both these categories of people, they have bhava pratyaya. That means they have the basis for rebirth. They come back into form. From which level they come back to form? They leave the physical body, they still exist in their astral body or vital body. If they leave this vital body, also with their mental body they exist. And depending upon their attachment, during their lifetime, they carry the influence, and with this they are held in their astral body or mental body, and they are not going into absolute oneness with the inner consciousness with the I am. So from this level only they come back into reincarnation, taking another body. So this is bhava pratyaya. Bhava pratyaya, this is what is explained as bhava pratyaya. Bhava pratyaya. Bhava means birth. So they have this bhava pratyaya basis for, this forms the basis for coming back into body from this level only. So therefore, they are clearly mortals only, they are not immortal. They have not attained immortality. Only those who have crossed all these and reached the ultimate stage of the soul level, they also take the body, they also leave the body, but they have no birth and no death. They leave the body, but they have no death. They take the body, but they have no birth. This we have to understand very clearly. Taking a form not by any obligation or not coming from only from the lower levels of consciousness, the astral, mental levels. It is not like that. They have reached the ultimate, just like how the solution of sugar in different glasses are mixed in one vessel. In the same manner, when they left their body physically, from the physical body, they left all these bodies and then they reached the source, the I am consciousness, the soul consciousness. It is like the vessel in which all these solutions are mixed up. Then they have no identity. So they come back without this identity. They get identified with the Lord consciousness. From there they come out. They come back. According to the law of divine cosmic law, that, but in this state, their coming back into incarnation is not, it is not in these cycles of birth and death. It is beyond this. Not by any obligation, not by any chain of karma. Because the influence, the result and the influence of all what they have acted during their physical existence, this will make like a chain, and this chain continues to the next incarnation when they come back from these lower levels of consciousness. Therefore, they are called mortals. But if by practice of vairagya and this yoga, by become stepping into yogic state, then they have crossed these layers, and they immediately when they leave the body, they get merged into the background consciousness, the soul consciousness, the one spirit. And they lost their identity, special identity. They will come back into body directly from that. So this is the difference between those who have attained immortality and those who have not yet attained immortality because they have not entered into practice of yoga. So what is the advantage of practicing this yoga by constant repetition process, abhyasa, and attaining vairagya, practicing vairagya to attain samadhi. Samadhi means attainment. So this is the process which is explained by Patanjali in this science of yoga. So in this aphorism, in this 19th aphorism, so what he ultimately tells us is that instead of getting into births and rebirths, cycle of births and rebirths, that means attaining physical body, not only attaining physical body, but coming back from these lower layers of consciousness as in a cyclic manner. Instead of this, you must work out by practice of vairagya and practice of yoga that you will get out of the bhava prachaya, the basis which forms for the birth and rebirth cycle. So you will get out of this cycle. So you are not born even after coming into a form, getting into a form, getting a body. And you have not died even after leaving the body. So what we generally understand as birth and death do not affect them, because they have practiced this vairagya in true sense. They have attained samadhi in true sense. Therefore, they are stabilized in samadhi. Once you are stabilized in samadhi, then you will take a form, you will leave the form, but not by any obligation and not with any bondage. That is the real immortality. So you have left bhava prachaya. So that is so here so constantly you have to keep yourself aware of this truth. So what happens is that unless you know this very clearly, what happens with us is that we always feel that, oh, this is coming into taking the body and leaving the body, it is ultimate. We feel that this is the ultimate truth, but which is not ultimate. And some people, they feel that anyway we are taking birth and leaving the body again so many times, so therefore we can sacrifice ourselves in the name of vairagya. Some people, I will sacrifice myself, my life. I don't care if what happens to others, I will myself sacrifice. But this is not vairagya. This is what is called victimization. So this is not accepted as vairagya. It is a mental disease. Victimization is not vairagya. Vairagya is non-attachment, but not victimization. Non-attachment is very higher experience, because that leads to samadhi. But victimization will never lead you to samadhi. Victimization is a mental disease. Because some people, they say, oh, I sacrificed my life. Why he wants to sacrifice his life is that he thinks that if I sacrifice my life for the sake of this, I will be remembered forever. I will get recognition, and I will be remembered forever as a hero. but for attaining samadhi and attaining yogic state, this is not at all useful. You have to give up such fanciful thoughts, Because there are people we come across, they feel they are making charity and sacrifice. But while they are doing some charity, they want to publicize this, some publicity for this. They want to show that they are making charity. You see, there are so many people who offer some money or some donation. Suppose, for example, there is COVID everywhere. So, economically there is a big problem for every country due to this COVID situation. So there are many people who donate to support the governments or to support the social organizations to help people. Okay, you can donate. But there are many people who want to be recognized when that they are donating. They want that it should be publicized. They should be recognized. Therefore, you see in the newspapers and news videos, you see people, they go and handing over this to the Prime Minister or Chief Minister or whomever, and they want this to be publicized in the newspaper that such and such fellow has donated this amount for thee. So, is it not charity? It is a charity, but for publicity. So it is of no much use, because he remembers that he made a charity. The thing is that if you remember that you made a charity, it is not, in real sense, it is not a charity. There is one sentence given in the meditation, in one of the meditations, in precepts given by Master E.K. Don't give if you remember that you are giving. When you want to help somebody and when you want to give, you have given some money or some help, in any sort of help to the other person. But if you remember this, always remember and reminding this, I have helped you, I have helped this person, I have given money to help this person. So, don't give if you remember that you are giving. A real charity is that after making the charity, it should go away from your memory that you made a charity. So, it should be silent. So, that is why in some of the Masonic rituals, inside the lodge, it is called technically, all the members who have gathered, they contribute some money, gather some money, and use this, distribute this outside for the needy people in a secret manner. Why in a secret manner? So that nobody who have contributed should be attached with his mind that they have contributed this for a. So in a secret manner it is should be distributed. What is openly gathered inside the lodge should be silently and secretly distributed outside for the increase of light. This is what is told inside the lodge during the Masonic rituals. You see? So, if I have some money, if I give this money to help somebody, and if I want that this is to be recognized, that I have donated this money. You need, there are many funny things. Many times we see some hall or some temple is being built with the donations given by people. And many of those who give donation to a temple, they want that their name should be written on the plates, or suppose if they have donated a fan, if you have donated a fan, you know, fan in India you have seen, because it is hot we have the fans. So those who have donated a fan to the temple, they want to write their name, donated by so and so, on the fan. What is this? What for? Because they want recognition. They want that people should remember that they have donated this. So it is not real charity. So if you want to make a charity really, you should forget immediately after making a transaction, after making a charity. If you have given some money for a needy person, forget that you have given the money. He should not forget. Here there are implications. The one who has received the help should never forget, should be always loyal, faithful, not to do something else, but just to remember that he has received his help. So this is but the person who has donated and who has made charity should forget immediately that he made some charity. Then only it is possible to make a progress in the yogic path. There is a saying in our language that regarding the charity, that you have two hands. So you made some charity with one hand, even the other hand should not know that the charity is made by this hand. In your own body you have two hands. If your right hand made some charity, your left hand need not know about it. What does it mean? That you should never expect any recognition, any sort of recognition. When you make any sort of charity, or you may have rendered any help to anybody, you should forget immediately that you have done something. In any of these things, suppose I am a homeopathic doctor, some very serious, very critical case has come, a person suffering from critical problem. So I have given some medicine treatment. So he got very immediately good relief. He got. If I remember always that I have treated and I have cured this person. Whenever I see this person, you remember I have cured you? You remember, do you remember I have treated you? If your mind is like this, it is useless, utterly useless. You should forget, I should forget that I have cured. The person who is cured, it is for him whether to remember or not. If you have received any help, you have to remember that you have received help from that person. But the person who has given some help should forget that he has given some help. You see, these are all the things which are counted upon for our progress in the yogic path. It is not that how many times you made inhalation, how many times you have made exhalation. They do not count anything. What will be counted is how your behavior is. How do you behave with other persons? And how do you behave with yourself? All these things will be counted. Because these will lead you further in the path, a progress. They will count your progress in the path. So therefore, victimization is not vairagya. And vairagya is non-attachment. Okay. Can you give up? I can give up some amount of money because I got vairagya. That is okay. So you can make some charity. So all these things. But can you give up your so-called ideals? That is not so easy. I got some plans in my mind, I should do this, I should do that. I should do very good things, great things. These are all ideals. I have so many ideals. You know, there is very famous yogi, Krishnamurti, in the West, in the Western countries, you know very well. Krishnamurti, he was very great. So he told that an ideal, what is an ideal? An ideal is, but the action postponed. You understand? If I say I have so many ideals, that means you have no action. What is required is action, put into action, no need of ideals. Yogi will not have any ideals to boost off. Yogi will be very practical, always puts into action, always practical, and no ideals in the mind. So all these yogis, great people, they are not people who have many ideals. They have good action, put into action. Because, you know, in the spiritual field, so-called spiritual field, how vairagya is very difficult to see. Because if I follow certain path, can I accept also those who are following another path? Can I do that? I am meditating on Master CVV, Master EK and Master CVV. So some other person is following Mahesh Yogi, teachings of Mahesh Yogi. So can I accept that person because he is not following what I am following? but he is following some other system, can I accept this? If I can accept this, then I have got vairagya, non-attachment. If I cannot accept and if I feel only this path which I am following is correct, then I have no vairagya. I cannot get stabilized in a yogic state. Yoga practice of yoga is very practical in all these higher levels, not only just physically. So that is why, suppose you have visited an ashram or some school, spiritual school. To the teachers or do the owners of this spiritual school accept the students who have been practicing the spiritual teachings of other masters, or who are having the photograph of other master? Is it acceptable? If it is not acceptable, that means there is problem. If you can see that all the paths will lead to only one goal, if it is teaching from Bhagavad Gita, or if it is from the Sermon on the Mount by Christ, or if it is from Quran, or it is from another sacred books. So if you know that all these will lead to the same goal, so there is no problem then. You can work together, practice together. But if you have these reservations, so-called, and if you want to have an identity of yourself, then you have no vairagya. That is what is, because such people are those who have the bhava pratyaya. That means a basis for their rebirth, birth and rebirth. Bhava pratyaya. So therefore, we must be very cautious about these things. Now, we pass on to the next aphorism, aphorism 20. Aphorism 20 Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Itaresham. That means, the meaning of this is, for others. For others means, other than bhava pratyayas and videhas. Because in the 19th aphorism, all explanation is given about videhas, those who have left the body and have no bodies, and bhava pratyayas, those they have merged, who have merged in their own nature. So apart from this, there are other categories. So for others, it is through consistent aspiration. Shraddha. Shraddha means consistent aspiration. We will see what it is. So for others, it is through consistent aspiration and potent effort and constant recollection, a repeated sense of attainment, and keeping oneself conscious of the yogic path. So therefore, it Itaresham means for others. For others means those who have not having bhava prachaya. What is explained in 19th aphorism. Bhava prachaya means basis for rebirths and births. So, for others who have no such basis, they can attain samadhi by having consistent aspiration. That is called Shraddha in Sanskrit. Shraddha means consistent aspiration. Consistent aspiration and potent effort, very strong effort. And also, smriti means recollection. And prajna, constant existence. So self so they have a discipline, self-imposed discipline. These are the things which will lead to samadhi. So in this aphorism, he is explaining that leaving those people who have bhava prachaya, that means who have basis for reincarnation, leaving those categories of people, there are others who have a true practice of making a breakthrough of the shell. You know, we have mentioned about the shell. What is the shell? Shell of personality and shell of individuality. Individuality and personalities. These are like the shells around us. So those who have come out of these shells and who are really those who want to have liberation and who have experienced the cosmic oneness, the synthesis, or Brahma, the cosmic consciousness, how they attain samadhi, how they attain their goal. So that is what is explained here in this aphorism. So for others, itaresha means for others. So far what is explained is about bhava prachayas. Bhava prachayas are those who always have a basis, always making a journey around, leaving the body and taking the body, leaving the body, like a cyclic journey, again and again. And that is what is called punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. That means taking birth again from the womb of the mother and living the life for some time and leaving the body again. And again taking the body. So this is only unbreakable chain. This is a chain which is unbreakable. So, they are called bhavapratyas in the previous aphorism. So here he is explaining others, other than bhavapratyas, how these people can attain. So, one wonderful thing is that they do the practice. It is different from how the bhavapratyas are doing. See, bhavapratyas, those who are having the basis, have no sustaining effort. He is about what was explained bhavapratyaya in Videhas and Prakritlayas who have bhavapratyaya, they have no consistent effort. So they keep changing always their effort. But here, Shraddha is what is explained here. In this, Shraddha means consistent aspiration. That is very much required. Consistent aspiration. What is this consistent aspiration? So today, for example, you wanted to be you want to get initiated. So you went to the initiator. You wanted to get initiated into master CVV yoga. Okay. So you went to some of the senior practitioner in this yoga. So you got initiation of this prayer. And you started the prayer, to do the prayer. So what was instructed is that every morning and every evening at 6 o'clock, few minutes before 6 you have to be ready for prayer. Exactly at 6 o'clock, then you utter Master CVV Namaskaram. You utter Om and then Master CVV Namaskaram. And sit in prayer. Keep observing. So, on the first day, you are very enthusiastic. Because you feel, I got initiation now. I am initiated into the prayer of Master CVV. So very enthusiastic. I should do this. So very much, very attentively sitting in the prayer, following everything, and close the eyes, Master CVV Namaskaram, and sitting and observing. Oh, wonderful. Again in the evening. So on the day when you start something like this, you are very enthusiastic. And after 1 month, every day you are very strictly at 6 o'clock you are starting the prayer. In the morning and in the evening, every day. Very good. Very enthusiastic. So enthusiastic that he will look at others also whether they are doing perfectly or not. This is over enthusiasm. This is not required. This will become obstruction. What for you are doing for your betterment, we have to remember. Why we are practicing yoga is for our own betterment, to make ourselves more and more better. Better in what? Better in our behavior, in our daily life. So therefore, after 1 month also, when you observe, then is he doing it with the same enthusiasm regularly? There should be regularity. Regularly and punctually, without fail. After 6 months, when you observed, it is the same. After 1 year, you have observed him, it is the same. After 10 years, when you observe him, if it is the same, then it is really he is in practice. So, that is possible when it is possible, when you practice the same attitude the whole day, whatever you are doing, then it is possible. That is the secret. If you sit in the prayer for half an hour, for 1 hour, and after that getting up and getting into your work, and in your daily life with your transaction with others, if there is no change of your attitude for betterment, only at that time when you are in the prayer, you are calm and quiet and very tranquil. But after that, all the other time, you get always very disturbed, very irritable, very confusing, very indecisive, all these things. So, if it is the same after 1 month, after 2 months, with great difficulty you are keeping up the time and doing the meditation, but it is not reflecting in your daily, in the behavior, in the daily life, it is not reflecting, then it is not a potent, it is not a consistent aspiration. Shraddha, there is no Shraddha. Consistent aspiration. So the aspiration, you want to, you say, I want to attain samadhi, I want to practice vairagya, I want to attain samadhi, I want to attain yoga. If you want to attain, you must be consistently doing it without fail. If after 10 days, after 2 weeks, then one day when you will wake up, then it comes to your mind, for today just let me take some more rest. Why? Because I am tired by yoga practice. If you think you are tired because of practice of yoga, that means your practice is not of yoga. If you are really practicing yoga, you should be more energetic, you are not tired. If it makes you tired, that means there is something wrong. Some people say, what problem you have? Why you appear sick? Why you are practicing? I am practicing pranayama for a long time. If you are practicing pranayama, you should be very energetic, more energetic. But if you find some difficulty, some blockage or some difficulty after practicing pranayama, that means there is something wrong in your practice. practice of pranayama, practice of vairagya and all these things, they should lead you to more ease, not to difficulty. They should get you out of blockages and make you free and make you easy. Otherwise, if we feel more tired, more blocked, then there is something wrong in your practice. There is nothing wrong in the system, but how you are practicing, there should be some mistake that we have to rectify. So therefore, here it says that how it should be, that means practice of yoga should not be one compartment in your daily life. You see, most of the people say, I practice every day, I practice yoga for 1 hour. Okay, what about other 23 hours? Are you living according to that yoga practice or not? So it should be an attitude. Practice of yoga should be an attitude in your life. It should not be a special compartment. But unfortunately, most of the people say that I am practicing yoga 1 hour every day. It is not something which should be practiced for 1 hour. It should be practiced, put into practice constantly in your daily life. It should become a part of your life. No, the whole of your life, not a part. Yogic living, it should become yogic living, not only yogic practice. Practice should lead you to live in yoga. If the whole life you say, I have been practicing yoga for the whole life, that means you have been practicing, but you could not have living in yoga. That means you have not reached the goal. You should be able to live in yoga, yogic state. For that, practice is required. Constant effort is required. Repeated effort is required. Abhyasa. So therefore, we should observe ourselves that whichever transaction you are doing in your daily life, that should lead your mind into the yogic state. It should lead you into yogic state of experience. Then it is true practice. So by speaking to other person, so every step, every work, every step, every bit of work, every bit of action should be a practice of yoga, a practice of vairagya. You know, there is a sentence given by Master Jwalkul. When you find in the books of Alice Bailey. What he said, energy follows thought. Energy follows thought. That means, when any thought is produced in your mind, what happens is, thought is produced in your mind, and this makes a channel in the energy levels, energy layers of your consciousness. Whenever a thought is produced in the mind, this makes a channel in the etheric state. then what happens? Energy flows through this channel. The path is made by the thought produced by your mind. So your mind has produced a thought. This thought made a channel, and this becomes a channel for the flow of energy. Then you may ask that, then if it is true, then why this energy is not working in me? A good question. Immediately this question arises. If energy follows every thought, then why I could not feel the energy? The problem is that there are so many cross currents which block the flow of energy. Because your mind is not trained to produce one required thought. So many thoughts in so many directions are produced at a time. Then what happens? There will be cross currents. For example, when I sit in the office, I have to do some office work. If I am a software engineer, I am sitting in the office. I have to do some project work, produce some project. Meanwhile, I get an idea in my mind, a thought, that whether my wife is preparing a good food at home or not. Some good preparation, which I like very much, some tasty preparation. Is she making this or not? Then what happens? Then what happens is, my mind is focused on the project work which I have to do in office, and it keeps producing a thought form about that project, and again it is making another thought form about what my wife is doing at home, about preparation of food. Meanwhile, another thought form will form what my friend is thinking about me. So like this, many thoughts are produced simultaneously from different directions. Then what happens? There will be cross current. Then how can the energy flow properly, and how can it make you feel the supply of energy? It is blocked, absolutely. So there should be uniform thought process. It is not concentration. It is wrongly understood as concentration. Many students of yoga, they think that we have to concentrate our mind. This is where there is absolute failure. How is it possible to concentrate the mind? The whole life, he makes an effort to concentrate the mind, but it becomes absolutely impossible. How can you concentrate the mind? It is not some material, some substance. It is a substance on higher level of consciousness, but it is not at the level of matter. So how can you concentrate? You cannot concentrate. The more you try to concentrate your mind, the more it will run this way and that way. That we can experience every moment. That is what exactly the same question was put by Arjuna to Lord Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita. He said, he questions the Lord, you recommended me to practice control of regulation of senses and regulation of mind. But I find it impossible because I try to regulate, I try to concentrate and regulate my mind. It is absolutely, I find it impossible. How is it possible? How can I attain this, a control over this? That is the question put by Arjuna to Lord Krishna. Then Lord says, what you said is true. It is not possible to concentrate your mind upon one thing, because it is the very nature of the mind to go here and there. I want to meditate, close my eyes, say Master CVV Namaskarams. I want to focus on Master CVV and see Master CVV in good light and all. But can you do that? Immediately within 1 or 2 minutes I close my eyes, then what happens? Many things will come on the screen before me, screen of my mind. You try again and again. After some minutes, my mind has not concentrated. No, let me concentrate again and sit 1 second. Again, Master CVV Namaskaram. Close the eyes. Try to visualize. Can you find it possible? You do it for 1 year, you do it for 2 years. They are much disappointed. All this is because of the wrong procedure. You should never try to concentrate. You have to relax. Concentration means focusing at only one point. Relaxation means to dissolve your mind into the background consciousness. That is to be done. As long as you are constantly in the mental level and trying to control the mind, it becomes impossible. You have to relax the mind, not control. There is the secret. You have to relax the surface mind into the background consciousness. That is what you have to practice. That is why Master CVV, what he said is, somebody asked him, what should I do in prayer? Master CVV said, the only thing you have to do is to do nothing by yourself. You surrender, you make a surrender to the Master. You utter this word, this prayer, close your eyes and observing what is happening. But my mind is going here and there, let it go, don't stop. You keep observing your mind, don't get identified with your mind. You keep observing your mind is like a dog. You know, many people you see go out for walking with a wrong rope tied to the dog. Some people have tamed the dog so much they don't even need to tie a rope. They keep walking and the dog keeps walking behind the master. When you try to always observe and watch the dog, then the dog will go here and there. You keep walking and the dog will follow you. In the same manner, if you try to concentrate your mind, get identified with your mind, then the mind will lead you. What you have to do? You have to surrender to the Master or to the Lord Consciousness in you and keep observing your mind and do your work. You should not stop your work. Engage yourself in a good work and keep observing the mind, let it go. It will come back. This is what you have to practice. Otherwise, the whole life you will be wasting. At the end of life, if you want to make a look into your account, you find zero. What you have gained is zero, nothing. For the whole life you have been practicing, at the end, nothing is attained. So that is wrong because of wrong procedure. So cross currents. So therefore, every thought produces its own pattern, thought patterns, its own structures. If somebody makes a photograph of your mind, then you can find different thought patterns, thought forms. So these thought patterns and designs, they have many sorts of thought patterns and designs. For example, if you are uttering a mantra and surrendering to that, then the thought pattern will be different from the thoughts what you get in other occasions. This is because the energy keeps flowing into the channel made by your thought form. In the thinking process, your mind makes a thought form which makes a channel, and from the etheric plane, the energy starts flowing into that. Actually, whatever action we do in our daily life is the result of this energy following the thought only. That we don't, because we don't know this, we don't understand this. Just for example, I am sitting here and say after half an hour, I want to take my car and I want to go out on some work. So I got this thought in my mind. Then what happens? A program is made in your mind, a thought form is there. Then after half an hour, because the energy is flowing into the channel, this energy makes you to get into action. Therefore, you will get up, you will go to the car, open it, sit in the car, start the engine and start moving. How could you do this? Because of the energy that has flown into the channel made by your thought of going out. See? Every action in your daily life, what you do, is the result of this energy. Without this energy, you cannot do anything. The matter itself cannot do. Matter requires force to move it. This is very well clearly proved. Without energy, matter cannot move by itself. And this energy, how can it move the matter in a particular direction is because of the thought. First the thought is formed and it makes a channel and this energy flows into the channel. Then it drives your physical body into action. This is the process. We don't observe this, that's why we don't know. This is the process. So therefore, this sentence given by Master Jwalkul, energy follows thought, we have to keep this sentence, meditating upon this sentence and observing this sentence in every action of yourself. Then you will realize that it is true. Every action. Without any exception, every action. For example, say, today I want to take my wife to a pleasure trip. So this thought came to your mind. Okay? So then you make all the arrangement. That means the energy has flown into the channel produced by your thought about your wife. Suppose the wife, because the wife has her own thought form also, no? So if the wife got a thought that I will not go with my husband today, so then there is a cross current. So she will not, she say, no, I am not coming. You say, I want to go with you. She say, no. So there is a cross currents between the two thought forms. So this sentence given by Master, we have to several times remember this sentence, contemplate upon this sentence and observe how it works. Energy follows thought. This is like a key sentence given by him. So, whether it is a work in your office, whether it is a work in your garden, in your house, so whatever it may be, if it is not constant form, continuous, consistent effort, then what happens is it becomes mechanical. So it should not become mechanical, that is what is. So consistent aspiration is required. That is what is explained in this aphorism 20. Consistent aspiration. Aspiration we have, but aspiration should be, we have so much of aspiration, so many things we aspire, but consistent aspiration. Consistent aspiration is, that means it should be exactly in the same manner every day, every moment. You should have consistency. This consistency depends upon the working of your mind. Once again, the mind should be focused in a uniform manner into uniform activity. Then there will be a consistency in aspiration, consistent aspiration. Otherwise there will be aspiration but not consistent. If your aspiration is not consistent, even after 1 year also, you have not gained anything because it becomes mechanical. Life should not become mechanical. It should be always lively. It should be. If it becomes mechanical, then what happens? It is lifeless. You know? Suppose Master said that you repeat certain mantra 100 times. Suppose Gayatri mantra is given to you. Master said you repeat this mantra 100 times. So if I keep repeating First day, second day, third day, and afterwards what happens? Vocally you are repeating the mantra, but your mind is somewhere not focused. Then there is no consistency. There is no difference between you uttering it and between a CD or a tape recorder uttering it. It's of no use. So this is what is explained. So let us continue this, because this aphorism also needs very clear explanation with examples. So we should not try to run fast. So let us continue this next week. Thank you all. ఎవరు వచ్చారు?